Welcome back, Ronin Renegades. I am Lupine Fiasco. This is Daily FaB Gameplay, and with the November banned and suspended announcement right around the corner, I am happy to announce that this is our last game against Lexi Livewire. For anyone who is new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review games that I've played on Talishar.net days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can judge my play more objectively. I'll walk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, while explaining my thought process for the lines that I take, and we compare that to what I did at the time I played the game. I either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns. And of course, the reason to do all this is to optimize and tighten our gameplay in the future, to take down paper events, and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. With all that said, let's take a look at our sideboard and talk about our game plan. Today's game features the harmonized Kodachi list that I've taken to 2 pro quests. If you would like to check that list out or try it for yourself on Talishar, the deck link is in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. It is the best free way to support me and make sure you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. I've uploaded a lot of Lexi videos to my channel. I know that we're all sick of her by now, but with one more weekend of ProQuest coming up, I wanted to give one last bit of insight into the matchup. Having won the die roll, we are choosing to go second here. We want the opportunity to block Lexi's first volley of arrows and draw back up at the end of her turn. That is much more productive than trying to leak a little bit of damage over and risk letting her Voltaire at the end of our first turn to have a 5-card hand going into her first turn. As far as our equipment, we are not changing anything. We are on a Kodachi Mask of Momentum plan into Lexi. We want to force her to block multiple attacks every turn, to take her off of 5-card hands when possible. If she does block, we lower her offensive output. If she doesn't block, we get a 5th point of intellect and can match or even beat her offensive output. We are going to keep our Flamescale Furnace. The extra 2 points of health and ability to block an additional breakpoint is more important in this matchup than the extra resource or 2 we would get from Fiendal's Spring Tunic. And because Ranger does not deal arcane damage, we are not bringing our Spell Void or our Arcane Barrier. Looking at the 60 cards in the deck, we are going to cut 2 copies of Enlightened Strike and bring in 2 copies of Command and Conquer. Enlightened Strike is a very good card in its versatility, but for our plan here, we don't need it. It does not disrupt Lexi, and it does not play well off of an Art of War, and both of those things are what we are looking to do. Command and Conquer, of course, is a great disruptive tool, and pairs very well with our breaking points and possibly our Warmonger's diplomacies. Our game plan into Lexi is to disrupt her. She attacks better than we do, has better on-hits than we do, and has bigger damage ceilings than we do on her most powerful turns. So the way that we survive long enough to set up a big power spike of our own is by disrupting her, and that comes through the form of Arsenal Destruction, Breaking Point, and Command and Conquer, or stripping her hand by forcing her to block our Mask of Momentum triggers. The one advantage that we have over Lexi is that her armor is terrible. It does not block well. Her Spring Tunic or her Sunken Trench both block 1 and is equipment that she wants to keep around. Her Hornet Sting only blocks 1, her Snapdragon Scalers do not block, and her New Horizon is critical to her game plan and essentially doesn't block until the very end of the game. So if we can pressure her into blocking from hand, we vastly reduce her damage output and can buy ourselves enough time to find and set up a 5-card Art of War hand. Things to look out for in this matchup are getting blown out by Lexi. She has Three of a Kind. She has Codex of Frailty. She has Arctic Incarceration, which are all great cards to either set up a powerful turn or really reduce our power level. It really is a matchup where you need to get lucky, and if you don't get lucky, and if she doesn't get a little unlucky, you can find yourself on the back foot, even playing as well as you possibly could. With all that said, you know the sideboard, you know the game plan. Let's jump into the game itself and see how it all comes together. Phoenix Flame goes to discard. Taking a quick look over at Lexi's side of the board, everything seems on the up and up. There are no surprises here. This is what I would expect every Lexi to be playing. Looking at our hand here, it is fine, if not good. We would like to block with some of our head jabs if possible. The one card we do want to keep from this hand is Breaking Point, but Lexi is not going to attack or give us the opportunity. So this hand really plays itself. As much as we would like to send a Breaking Point here, we don't have a blue. So we will just send 3 head jabs and a Phoenix Flame. Maybe Lexi chooses not to block this Brand with Cinderclaw, and we can pitch the card that we draw to play Breaking Point. But we see that that doesn't happen. So we will just send another point of damage with the Phoenix Flame and arsenal our Breaking Point for a later turn. We could, of course, pitch the Phoenix Flame to play the Breaking Point, but I really don't recommend doing that. We draw into an absolutely atrocious hand with no natural go again and no blue. There isn't a whole lot that we can do with this. If we wanted to take a ton of damage from Lexi, we could do something like play a Lava Vein Loyalty, use our Snapdragons, pitch a Lava Vein Loyalty to a Kodachi, then pitch a Lava Burst to our Furnace to send another Kodachi and a Breaking Point while arsenaling our Command and Conquer. It sends a disruptive attack at Lexi, which could be good at screwing with her arsenal, but is 10 points of damage, and we used our Snapdragons for it. I'm much more excited about blocking this turn. And let me clarify, I'm not excited about anything involving this hand, but blocking with it is a better idea than keeping it. We are going to take this damage from the Searing Shot. It's Lexi's first attack, and she needs to spend her Snapdragon Scalers to play it. And we'll see what else she can do on her turn. We see a Hamstring Shot in Arsenal, so suddenly we have to keep this entire hand to play our Command and Conquer. And I just don't think it's worth it. This Drill Shot comes in for 4 points of damage, really 6 because it puts a Battle Worn counter on our Furnace, which takes away our ability to block for 2. And I don't know what's left in Lexi's hand. So there is a world where I throw my Furnace in front of this Drill Shot, lose the Furnace to its own temper effect, then hope that I don't need to block Lexi's next arrow. But sending a 4-card Command and Conquer is not something that I value more than at least 15 points of life. I really don't want to go to 20 here just to send a Command and Conquer that may not even have a target if Lexi plays out the card in her hand and her Hamstring Shot. So we're going to block this Drill Shot for 6. I would say that this is the correct block. Let's save our Command and Conquer if we can. But if it comes to blocking with one of these attacks and keeping the other, I want to keep the Lava Vein Loyalty. It's likely that Lexi is going to follow this Bolton Shot with the Hamstring Shot. So we just maximize our defensive value here. We'll block Bolton Shot with a Command and Conquer, then block Hamstring Shot with Lava Vein Loyalty. If Lexi doesn't attack with the Hamstring Shot, we send Lava Vein Loyalty for 3 and pass the turn. Either way, this really wasn't a good turn cycle for us. Not seeing a single blue in the top 8 cards of our deck is not terribly unlikely, but still unlikely, and we really do need to see a blue soon if we're going to turn this game around. We pass the turn back to Lexi and don't draw another blue. 12 reds in a row is really unfortunate for us. Lexi here coming with another drill shot. We are going to block with our furnace and lose it to the drill shot effect. We would like to save this hand if possible, because what I'm looking at doing here is double strike, E-strike, bottom the lava burst, and break Snapdragon to draw a card, potentially drawing 2, so we can fire off our breaking point from Arsenal and still Arsenal another breaking point. But we'll see if Lexi even lets us do that. Voltaire activating to load a Searing Shot, giving it +1, and Lexi breaks the chain to Winter's Bite. So we already saw Lexi not keep an arrow in Arsenal. We can assume that Lexi is going to play this Searing Shot for 5+1. So there's no reason to hold our breaking point here. I am more inclined to pitch breaking point to the Winter's Bite effect, and on our turn look to send double strike, E-strike, bottoming lava burst. Assuming that Lexi doesn't attack with Searing Shot, we'll see if she does, and if she does, our plan changes. Here, I think we should block the Searing Shot and send E-strike for 7. It's a really weak turn. We take 3 from this Searing Shot, 2 points from the actual hit and 1 point from the hit effect. Then our E-strike comes in for 7. We get 10 total value from that exchange. If we keep our breaking point looking to double strike, E-strike, we have a very weird choice to make. We can either give it go again to save our Snapdragon Scalers, but then we are a slave to what we draw off the top of our deck. If we draw a 1-cost attack or a blue or something weird, then we essentially lost our mask trigger because we don't want to play our breaking point here. Lexi doesn't have an arsenal. And if we give our E-strike, draw a card, we are priced into using our Snapdragon Scalers and are just sending damage. And we don't want to send damage. We want to send disruption. We have damage in our deck. As soon as we find an Art of War, if we can stay alive long enough to play out a 5-card hand, then we have the ability to really do something explosive. But here, I just want to play defense and work our way through this terrible series of draws. I don't follow this advice. I take the full 6 and keep this breaking point in hand. So we're going to open up with double strike, hoping that Lexi doesn't block the first attack with the Hornet Sting, and she doesn't. Follow this with a Shukoed double strike, which Lexi also elects to take. And now we have that same weird decision. We're either going to give this go again or draw a card. And I do think that giving go again here is correct, that Lexi does need to commit 2 cards to blocking this if she wants to stop the hit trigger. But we draw into a Bittering Thorns, and you see what I'm talking about, where we don't have a good way to use this Bittering Thorns. We don't want to play our breaking point here, so we're just stuck with this card. I do think that pitching it here for a Kodachi is the correct play, and you see that we don't do that. I believe that is wrong. Bittering Thorns is obviously a very good card. I would like to play it, but I just want to maximize damage. Overall, this game is not going our way, but we just need to muddle through and look for damage where we can get it, and I think not pitching that breaking point was a missed opportunity. We are just taking this damage from the Bolton shots. Lexi has cards in hand, resources floating, and a Voltaire activation available, so I'm not afraid of the reload from the Bolton shot. A poorly timed Codex here throws a Remorseless. We can block with our Lava Vein Loyalty and a Tiger Stripe Shuko, and on our turn, do what? Rising Resentment into Ravenous Rabble into pitch Bittering Thorns to play Breaking Point. The Breaking Point Rupture effect isn't active. It itself comes for 4 and is an easy block for Lexi using an Arrow from hand and the Hornet Sting. As much as I don't want to take this Remorseless damage, we kind of have to. We have to make something happen, or else we're just going to lose the game. And at this point, we see that Lexi will have an arsenal, so our breaking point is live and maybe forces some sort of block out of Lexi. We're going to open with our Bittering Thorns here. If Lexi does block it, then we can threaten another Mask of Momentum trigger with our breaking point that follows this Rising Resentment and Ravenous Rabble. Rabble here drawing into a Mounting Anger, which is pretty good. Lexi chooses not to block, so we can imagine that she has something pretty spicy coming up. I do want to point out that this is a situation where I would have rather had Soaring Strike than Bittering Thorns. If you've been watching my channel for a few weeks, you know that this is an ongoing debate I've been having with myself, trying to decide if Bittering Thorns or Soaring Strike is better in the Kodachi list as a one-drop that isn't Mounting Anger, Art of War, or Breaking Point. And it goes back and forth, right? Bittering Thorns, I would say, has a higher floor and a lower ceiling, as Soaring Strike, being draconic to pick up a Phoenix Flame, has the potential to give us another link on our chain. And for playing Mask of Momentum, we already sacrifice damage for more links on the chain. So I do waffle back and forth. I do look for it in my games and find that there's a good amount of the time that I play Soaring Strike and wish it was Bittering Thorns and vice versa. This is a situation where Soaring Strike would have been a better card than Bittering Thorns. I'm not saying we have to do anything with that information, it's just something worth noting. Because if we had a third Draconic link on the chain, we could pick up our Phoenix Flame and banish it to this Mounting Anger to get an additional 2 points of damage over the additional 1 point of damage that we got from Bittering Thorns. Lexi here gives armor and a card from hand to block the breaking point, so I do feel okay about the value that we got from this, but of course we wish that it had 5 power. We pick up and arsenal our Phoenix Flame just for that little extra bit of value. Drawing into an Art of War now, right on time, exactly when we don't need a card that doesn't block. We're going to take the damage from this Bolt and Shot. We are dead to Rain Razors, but we're dead to a lot of things, so we just need to hope to get lucky. Lexi following with a 5 damage Bolt and Shot is pretty bad for us. I would like to be able to block this with armor, but we will give our Mask of Momentum and our Command and Conquer to stop this. Finally, we can block this Endless Arrow with Shuko and Brand with Cinderclaw. We're going to keep our Snatch so that we can get some value out of our Snapdragon Scalers. Choosing to send it before the Phoenix Flame from Arsenal, I think this decision could go either way. The advantage of sending the Snatch first and using the Snapdragons to clear out our arsenal is if the Snatch hits and we draw into a Draconic Head Jab, our Phoenix Flame gets an additional 1 point of power and we get some value out of it. The downside of sending the Snatch first is of course that we break our Snapdragon Scalers. If we don't draw anything that gives the Phoenix Flame power, then we are using our Snapdragons to send a 0 damage Phoenix Flame, which is really bad. But of course we are in a very dire situation here. We need to play for the win. We don't play to not lose. So we're going to snap this Snatch just to get our Phoenix Flame out of Arsenal and stick the Art of War in instead. Drawing into a second Art of War here. Again, just fantastic timing on these. Having another card that doesn't block. Lexi does seem to get stuck with a pretty bad hand, all reds, but we're so far behind in this game that we can't take advantage of that. We are going to play a defensive Art of War, pitching our other Art of War to play it. We'll banish our Mounting Anger and block this Heat Seeker for 6. Keeping a double strike and a Snatch in hand, that is just the best turn that we can put together with our limited options. It's possible that we deal 6 points of damage here and draw something useful for our arsenal. If Lexi draws into a totally unplayable hand, it sets us up to win. I should explain, I made this mistake while editing down this game. We keep the Soul Bead Strike instead so that we put another card back into our deck. It's anti-fatigue tech. Obviously, this game won't go until fatigue, but this play does deal the same amount of damage while keeping one additional card in our deck. Lexi doesn't block, goes down to 3, plays a Premeditate, and loads a Bolt and Shot into the arsenal. This Bolt and Shot comes in for 8. We have to spend our entire hand to block the damage. And Lexi's going to follow up with a 3 of a kind. So even if she draws absolutely nothing here, she can 1-card block our Brand with Cinderclaw and win. Of course, she does draw better than that, and we just die to an Infecting Shot. So this was a very interesting game in that we saw that we just didn't draw well in the first 3 turns of the game. 12 reds in a row is not what we want to see when we have a breaking point in Arsenal. We really needed even just a yellow to put a little pressure onto Lexi. But even despite that, we didn't play really well. And that is what I wanted to highlight in this video, that we played pretty loose by not blocking with that breaking point. If we had 3 more life to play with on that turn where Lexi threw the Endless Arrow and we needed to block with our Brand with Cinderclaw and only keep a Snatch and Art of War, if we could have blocked with just the Shuko and go down to 2, then maybe we can put something together with our Art of War. Maybe we can actually mount some sort of offense, put Lexi on the back foot, maybe take an extra card or 2 out of her hand, and give ourselves a chance in the next turn or maybe the turn after that. So even though this game really looked like, well, we drew poorly, Lexi seemed to draw well, there wasn't really anything we could do, and we just fell too far behind, that we didn't get the break we needed, we can see that we still made a few mistakes that snowballed towards the end of the game into taking what little chance we could have had to recover from our bad start and completely killing it. Lexi is a matchup where we can't afford to play loose. We don't have a margin for error. And in fact, our margin for error is so negative that we usually need Lexi to screw up to have a chance at winning. And we did not give ourselves that chance in this game. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you can see where I did make some slight misplays and how those did compound the advantages that we could have given ourselves if we had played a bit tighter and thought a bit more about our decisions. If you did learn something from this game, if you liked watching this game, and if you are also so excited for Lexi to leave Classic Constructed and to take her stupid bow with her, head jab that like button for me. My comments are always open for questions and feedback. Otherwise, good luck at your ProQuests this weekend. Take them down, grab your PTIs, grab your gold foil envelopes. Let me know on Monday how you did, and I will see you next week for more daily FaB gameplay. Take care.